What's up folks, Kuro the Artist here, and welcome back to another Ben 10 Breakdown. Albedo is such a weird character. He's Ben's evil twin, but not really. He has the same powers as Ben, but not really. And he's totally and completely evil. But not really. We've talked before about changing Charmcaster's progression by the time Omniverse rolls around in favor of returning her to a one-dimensional villain. But she's not the only one who fell victim to this. Albedo was also building towards a character that's much more complicated than your typical antagonist. Not pure evil like Vilgax or Greg, but also not nearly as trustworthy as Kevin, or even, admittedly, Argit. I may sound like a broken record, but for the sake of clarification, redeeming a character does not automatically mean they're good, and they're now on the hero's side, fighting among one of them, completely changing their moral compass, forgiven of any and all of their crimes, and are now a changed person. Things aren't that binary. That's not how I felt about Charmcaster, and that's not how I feel about Albedo. But the facts are, there's elements to both of these characters that make it clear there's more to their story. This episode focuses a lot on Albedo's true motivations, and how little he actually cares for cliches like world domination and revenge.
I'm ready for anything you can throw at me.
Why would I throw anything at you?
You're not gonna attack us?
No, with any luck, I will never see your hideous face again.
He's tortured by the fact he's trapped as something he doesn't want to be, and just wants to get back to his old life. His frustrations do lead him down a darker, more malicious path, but for a moment, there was a chance where he could have put all of that behind him, but it's sabotaged by the first people we've seen him truly care about, and he wrongfully redirects his anger back at Tennyson, filling him with a disinclined wrath. Now, as with the endless topics of Ben 10, if one person enjoys something, another must dislike it. It's the law. So of course there's people out there that hate the idea of Albedo being anything other than an absolute villain. And if you hold that opinion, you're probably gonna love Omniverse. Probably. But personally, I don't think Albedo being a villain is what made him interesting in the first place. And in this episode, we explore why that is with Ben 10 Live. That's right, Ben's identity has now been plagiarized a second time in this series, and ironically, this won't even be the last. To earn a living, as he puts it, Albedo turns around putting on a stage show impersonating Ben to make use of his likeness, while secretly working on a machine to return him to his regular form. Ben 10 has had a history of stage shows during its run, some that even introduce new aliens to the spectrum of canon, and this episode plays soft homages to this concept. While this episode is more about Albedo than the actual stage play, it is worth noting how amazing it is how far Albedo went with this production. Building sets, writing a script, coordinating with all the locations, directing the actors, producing television advertisements. This is a lot of work that he does mostly, if not all, by himself. So without further ado, let's dive in. On October 14th, 2011, Len Uli returns once more to give us Double or Nothing. The trio bitterly attend a live show that is loosely based on the adventures of Ben versus Vilgax, which irritates the Tennysons due to their portrayals. They find out it's Albedo pulling the strings, and they threaten to shut down his production. Just as Albedo agrees, one of his actors, Hugh, leads the trio to believe that Albedo's secret ulterior motive might in fact be diabolical. Man's just ate half a burger in one bite like it was nothing. These aren't supposed to be bite-sized, Kevin. Also, I'm totally in the camp that chili fries are best eaten with a fork. Y'all can go on and on about the integrity, but I'm not the one that's gonna have to be wiping my hands every 3 seconds. Neat that you can see Ben's lighting change when he enters the establishment.
Experience the excitement!
So this does look like legit Big Chill, but when we meet the actor later, they do have slight differences in physique. Same with this swamp fire right here. Maybe this is actual footage of Ben that they've keyed out for this commercial. Illegally, of course. But it's my boy.
It's Ben 10 Live!
Looks like you got your own show.
This has a very similar introduction to Super Alien Hero Buddies adventures.
The Super Alien Hero Buddies!
Are those super lame-o versions of your alien heroes? Someone's paying for this.
Where they happen to catch Ben's ripoff on TV, and Ben is not very happy about this result. I wonder if they have clearance to fly their plane just anywhere they like. Maybe the Air Force gives them a pass.
I'm telling you, it's just wrong.
Actually, would have been neat for them to bring up Super Alien Hero Buddies Adventures 2. Be like, oh, this has happened before. Ironically, early Alien Force was a lot more comfortable referencing the classic series than later UAF seems to be. I'm not just talking plot points either, just like casual drops here and there. Like in the Big Chill episode, they really didn't need to bring up Ghost Freak, but they did because they knew the audience would be thinking it.
We had a problem with one of the aliens going rogue. It was Ghost Freak. Like maybe these ghost personalities are just plain evil.
So to me, this should have been a similar scenario.
Aren't there laws about this? Did you see that guy's hair?
Seems narcissistic, but we later find Albedo is wearing a wig, so perhaps Ben was able to tell. Also, I like how the clouds are separated from the background to give these shots some extra depth. Like, this shot looks really good to me. So this is Nemesis's tower, right? Yeah, it seems to be. So even though the dude is in jail, I guess his business is still in operation. Logo's pretty bland, though. I like the joke about the awkwardness of their parking, but props to Kevin for not actually hitting anyone. Been a while since I've had some good smoke animation to compliment, too. Really good stuff.
It's sold out.
He didn't shout his name.
Go right in.
Kind of funny to use Armadillo to intimidate. You'd think he'd use Humongousaur. Look at how his whole body vibrates too. I think he wasn't animated to be trembling, but they shook him to add the effect. But like even down to his soles are moving. Another quick interesting thing, Armadillo's armor bends here like it's fabric.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Oh, now they're using a better logo.
Towers Resort Celebrity Theater.
There's Pierce's girlfriend. Guess she's doing what she can to move on from his death.
I am Vilgax the Conqueror.
I kind of prefer this voice over the real UAF Vilgax. Alpha seems to be UAF's version of classic series Vilgax too, rather than Warlord's full fit. It's funny to see Vilgax in a traditional UFO though. But hey, where's the trio? Albedo keeps doing this pose as Ben, maybe trying to give him like a signature pose or something to better market the live show. Albedo is a genius.
I, Ben Tennyson.
There it is again.
Chill out, Vilgax.
It's actually very accurate Big Chill dialogue, but here you can see his physique is slightly different than regular Big Chills, along with the one that showed up in the commercial earlier. But that's a real Necrophagian though, so it's actually surprising this ice attack doesn't work. Probably going incredibly easy on him.
Vilgax is kind of a fee, but the rest of them are pretty good.
The rest of them, like Ben and his aliens? Because so far there's only them on the stage. Maybe there's more happening off screen.
Even you have to admit this is kind of awesome.
I agree.
You are trapped, Ben Tennyson.
See, throw a filter or two on there and that's actually a really dope voice. In fact, hold on.
Ben Tennyson, you cannot save yourself.
Yeah, I kind of dig this better than UAF Vilgax's voice.
Ben 10, I've come to kill you and conquer your world.
Ben Tennyson, you cannot save yourself.
No real hate to James, though. In fact, surprisingly, I've heard a lot of people actually prefer James's portrayal over Steve Bloom's.
Prepare to board.
I want the Omnitrix now.
You're going to give me the Omnitrix, or I'm going to kill your friends.
But coincidentally, this actor right here is also voiced by a James. This one being James Arnold Taylor, who has also voiced Kolar and Magister Brannigan previously, along with Fridge, the name of the Necrophagian actor.
Better call for a little help from the Gwinnetts.
So my first thought is this is just one character animated over and over again in repetition since they all kind of look similar. But because their legs are at a bunch of different intervals, I think there's at least two. Oh no, I was wrong. It's literally the same Gwen. Yeah, it is just one Gwen repeated over and over again. Kind of stepping on each other too now that I look at it. With stage Gwen, they give her earrings, chop the shirt in half, and ditch the tights. Because showmanship, I guess. Sorry, my necklace is caught on my headphones. Oh, I've definitely made it worse. Is this supposed to be freeing Ben from that cage?
10 Gwens.
The light is flickering on the characters from the stage show. That's cool.
That is so wrong.
Well, you say that, but you do duplicate yourself in Omniverse. Hey folks, just taking 10 seconds of your time to let you know that 5YL Chapter 5's Recalibrated Edition is out now in our links below. Check it out and let me know what you think. Thanks. The smoke shooting up from the ground looks really good too. It's you. Sounds like that actually broke. Do they remake that prop every show? Also, a little coloring error here. Albedo's not wearing his wig in this shot. Weird to hear everyone clapping, but not see it.
Before we do anything, we find out all the facts.
Interesting hearing that coming from Kevin. Probably learned his lesson from trying to shake down Jimmy.
I am perfectly calm.
Wow, Gwen's really not happy with her betrayal. Feel kind of bad for her.
I'm not even in the show.
Yeah, that's a strange choice. Maybe he couldn't hire any more actors. Aside from the 3 aliens, the only other guy he really got was the one who plays Vilgax. Speaking of...
Real Ben Tennyson?
Uh-huh.
The producer is right inside.
We meet again.
And it's Albedo again. This is so wacky.
I was about to go out for some chili fries. Care to join me?
Is that a genuine offer? Like, what if Ben said yes? I suppose they could have this whole conversation over dinner.
I'm making the best of a bad situation. I'm trapped in this repulsive human form.
I like that he just uses regular contacts to change his eye color. It's not some type of alien device. But with the reflections of both Ben in this picture, these light bulbs should be reflected too.
Since I needed some way to earn a living.
So this sounds a bit silly pointing out because it should be obvious, but when you think about it, since Albedo has his own regular Ben outfit and changes in and out of it for the show, that means when he's not doing this, he chooses to wear Ben's reversed clothing. Because biologically, yeah, he is stuck looking like Ben's twin all the way through Omniverse, but he doesn't have to wear Ben's mirror outfits. That's a decision. Now, I like the mirror outfits. I think they look really cool, especially in Omniverse when they start reversing the pattern rather than just changing the color. But it's presented as if like Albedo has to look like Ben, outfit included, when he really doesn't.
I created Ben 10 Live to make money off of you. The show's over. And disappoint my fans.
See, I feel like there's part of him that's serious about this too. Albedo seems to be loving this. It could be a lot of the human influences changing his personality. Like, it's hard to imagine episode 1 Albedo or Galvin Albedo from Omniverse acting like this. But I'm liking this. Albedo seems to be evolving with his human DNA. And of course, since Albedo's the one that threw it, somehow he's immune to the effects, because that's how that works, I guess.
I'm going after Albedo.
Back off, you!
You know, this sounds so close to D, they might as well cast him, but he's actually voiced by John DiMaggio.
What's that smell? Is that me? Back off, you!
I like the idea of the other aliens not being voiced by D. Bradley Baker, but when they do a voice that's so close to it, it kind of negates the idea of casting someone else.
Thought you said you didn't have an Ultimatrix.
So these folks are put up by Albedo to pretend that Albedo can transform into aliens still, even outside of the show. So they were hired not as actors, but as criminal allies.
None of your business!
Okay, I heard Johnny D a little bit in there.
None of your business!
A hint of wrath coming out a little bit there.
None of your business!
Just slightly. Or Volcanus, I guess. It's closer to Volcanus. But a Methanosian breathing fire. Have we seen Swamp Fire do that before? I like that we're doing this, because we've seen Swamp Fire versus Big Chill before, so now we're getting Swamp Fire versus Water Hazard.
Get up! I changed again.
I mean, this is amusing, but there's no way Ben's fallen for this.
Now I'm a different creature.
As I said earlier, this Necrophrygian is voiced by James Arnold Taylor, but still sounds very similar to D.
You're out of your league, Alan, and you know it. Now I'm a different creature.
Gotta do better than that!
A lot of Andromeda aliens in this episode.
Wait, time out.
See, now with him, they do the opposite. The voice is very different, but he looks exactly like Humongousaur. I wouldn't have gone super different with Hugh. Like, I can think of a lot of different ways you can change him up, but I think for the sake of the fact that Albedo hired him to be Humongousaur, he should look a little bit like Humongousaur. But now we're at a point where you're just reusing the exact model and slapping some glasses on it. I can excuse it when the Ultimatrix scans aliens, because you could just say it's copying their DNA. But if you're gonna change up Swamps and Fridge, but make Hugh about the same, it's just, it's not what I would have done. But it is funny to see a Vaxasaurian use glasses.
Bring it on!
Hugh right here is voiced by Jeff Bennett, by the way.
I wasn't ready. Wait till I get my second wind.
Yeah, give him a shot, see how he does. Say what you want about Hugh, but the fact he's willing to fight Ben Tennyson, knowing what he is, just for Albedo's honor, I don't know, it's not the smartest move out there, but you can call it brave.
You two have a look around. How's it hanging?
A lot of small funny moments in this episode.
Fear of heights.
You think if he grew to his full 60 feet size, he'd be afraid of looking down?
Look who we found.
So they found him coming in from stage left, but you can hear Albedo prompting Fridge to jump out on stage right. This is one of those moments where you can clearly see the characters are animated on different scales. Albedo was probably animated like maybe about this size, maybe even bigger, and then shrunk to fit down next to them. Like, look at the difference in outline thickness. See, now his outline is incredibly thin.
Ow!
15-year-old human can damage Vaxasaurian.
Find performers who would lend my show a certain verisimilitude.
Alright, this part is pretty amusing. But this Piscus Valaean is surviving without any water enhancements. Seems to be doing just fine.
Next.
So we know Brainstorm mentally projects his thoughts to speak, but he's still able to make these grunting sounds and such. Also, the cerebral crustacean looks really good with these yellow eyes. Let's see, he's still decked out in his breathing brace, but Mr. Jaws here is just going in as is.
Next.
This eye color also looks really good on the Gormand.
What you see here are the winners.
These outline differences are catastrophically significant.
Every second-rate resort, sales convention, and county fair.
Yeah, but now he's performing at the Nemesis Tower to an audience of thousands. Gotta respect the grind. That's really hard to pull off. I guess it's easier now that Ben's identity is revealed and he can capitalize on it, but either way, you'd think like hundreds of companies would also try to be doing the same thing, and Albedo's is the one that survived the trials. Maybe you should just go into business.
But now you're gonna stop.
And give up show business.
See how that's his concern? Like, I get that he has an ulterior motive that we'll learn about later, but I really do think Albedo enjoys this. Like, he held auditions and everything. This could have been an opportunity where instead of trying to shut them down, the trio could just say, okay, that's fine. Just give us a cut of the profits and don't do anything to deface their image. Other than that, if Albedo's not doing anything evil, I don't see harm in this.
How many times has Albedo's tried to kill me?
Twice, which is still less than Animo.
This ridiculous dog and phony show!
Feel better?
A little.
Gotta admit, it's kind of funny to see Ben lose it this hard over this. There isn't even anything at stake here. Ben is just annoyed that Albedo's ripping off his image.
My dad's a lawyer. Let him handle it.
That's why they can afford that house.
Albedo isn't a threat anymore. He's a nuisance.
And as much as I usually flack on villains like Vilgax or the Forever Knights for basically turning into the same thing, with Albedo, I think it works. Maybe it's just because it's done on purpose. Like, after a while, it seems like the writers just kind of got burnt out on what to do with the Knights and with Vilgax, but here they're intentionally making Albedo's next step being this pathetic, because his goals have never been about world domination. At first, he just wanted to be worthy of the Omnitrix, and when he wasn't, he made his own, which, I guess, yeah, is pretty petty. Like, Albedo's realized his old life is pretty much gone, and he might as well make a living off of it. And yeah, like I said, he's still secretly trying to get back to his regular form, but, I mean, can you really blame him?
Tonight was our last performance.
But what about...
We're done.
Poor Hugh. He seems like he really likes this too.
Try anything like this again and I'll...
See you in court.
Yeah.
Oh boy. And Hugh's coming to screw the whole thing up.
Trying?
How can he be so ripped and so out of shape?
I came to warn you.
Albedo's real plan.
He's selling toys and t-shirts?
Can I get one?
Build a doomsday bomb.
See, this just sounds like sci-fi nonsense, even for Ben 10. Sure, some villains here and there have tried similar things, but with Albedo, that doesn't really line up with his goals.
He's gonna set it off tonight.
Oh boy, more warehouses.
Why do bad guys always have their hideouts in a warehouse?
Alright, this is one of the times where I feel like lamp shading does add to it.
Building a doomsday bomb.
It's a really cool looking design. Definitely looks pretty Galvan.
If Albedo's stuck on Earth, what does he gain from destroying it?
Actually, what he's got planned is even crazier.
Yeah, you should be able to tell Hugh's lying now. Especially if they can usually see through Argent's schemes. They should be able to see through Hugh. He's not even that good of a liar.
Everyone in the whole world will be a genetic duplicate of Ben Tennyson.
That's horrifying.
Although that is a little closer to something that Albedo would do. And perhaps blinded by the frustration of the stage show, the trio doesn't really want to question it.
What's that?
To protect him from the bomb.
So why protect himself?
No time for a debate, Gwen.
No, y'all got time. Albedo's still working on it. He hasn't pressed go yet. I swear, lately whenever NRG shows up, he makes 2 appearances. Yeah, in Absolute Power, The Purge, and now Double or Nothing. Ben uses NRG twice in one episode.
Would you wait a second?
You should really listen, Ben.
Hold them off!
Also, you can see that Swamps' leaf patterns slouch a bit, in addition to his physique being different than regular Swamp Fires.
This suit is designed to protect against radiation and heat.
I did not know that.
That reminds me of the Vreedles.
Ought to blow up Kevin real good.
Not to mention this whole space station.
I had not fully considered that fact.
Oh, here Gwen's mana actually is treated like a disc when it's launched outwards. You can see the side brim of it as if it's a disc. Usually it's only like that when it's a projectile, and it's a full-on sphere when it's surrounding her hand. NRG just threw a Vaxasaurian over his shoulder. That's pretty neat looking. Oh, and Spider Monkey's used twice too.
Ultimate Spider!
And Ultimate Spider Monkey. We don't really see the same Ultimate used twice. This may be the first and potentially only time this ever happens.
You'll ruin everything!
Now, I do not know what is happening here. Best guess is, since this field is supposed to reset Albedo's DNA to its base form, that this is what is happening with Ben. But first, why wouldn't it just turn him into Spider Monkey even if it did work? As we've seen, both the Omnitrix and the Ultimatrix have defenses against something presumably more powerful than this. And second, if the device is ready to be used in real time as Ben passes through the field, how come it hasn't already affected Albedo? You could also see that Ultimate Spider Monkey's needs don't line up with where Ben's are coming through. Albedo's getting a lot of hits in. UAF's pretty good with fire, but right here isn't really doing it for me. I think it's because of the shape of these flames. It looks like they're animated to be much smaller than they really are. Also another moment where Gwen is able to control and even fly with her little orb here, which contradicts a couple of scenarios, like needing Ultimate Echo to push her and Kevin across that river that one time. But also, now that I think about it, how come Gwen doesn't use this to fly and still resorts to using the stairs? I like that the transformation back is not just a flash, and it has its own sound effect too. This is all unique to Albedo. And we're seeing his Galvan form for the first time. Also contradictory to UAF standards, it isn't just a copy of Gray Matter or Azimuth or anything. In fact, it might be a reused design from like a background character or something, but I'm just surprised that they actually gave Albedo his own unique look, or at least it's just like not obviously something reused.
The genetic alteration field worked.
He is way too big in this shot. But that still sounds like Yuri voicing Galvan Albedo.
Dude, you're cured. That's great.
Ben's actually happy for him too. Like, this could have led to something totally different than what we got in Omniverse.
I'm free of you at last.
You're not gonna attack us?
I'm getting off this backwater planet while the getting is good.
See, I don't get how you can see this whole scene and just be like, yeah, Albedo didn't deserve a redemption arc. I feel like people stretch redemption to the point of like, they're either bad or they're good and they're on the team and they're working with Ben. I don't need any of that from Albedo, but this clearly builds up to a perspective where if Albedo wasn't trapped looking like Ben, he really does not care for him and he will gladly leave and go find something else to do. Maybe pursue his new love of theater. But to have this episode, but then to be like, yeah, at the end of the day, Albedo is still evil to his core. Might be true in Omniverse, but that is not the direction UAF was taking him.
I will never see your hideous face again, in the mirror or in person.
See, that line speaks volumes to who Albedo is. And again, I don't blame his frustration. Stuck looking like something you don't want to be for a long time. I feel like a lot of people can identify with that. And now he's finally the version of himself he wants to be, despite everybody trying to take that away from him. And now that he has what he wants, he's just gonna let bygones be bygones and carry on. That is genuine growth.
That wasn't a doomsday bomb? What? Okay, now that I say it out loud, it does sound kind of stupid.
But now that Hugh screwed it up, the device didn't work. This transition's a little sloppy. Even UA's done much better than this. The effect itself, like the digital effect, is nice, but you can just see the arms not lining up where they're supposed to be. The head not grow into the shape of this head. They could have done a lot better.
What? No!
So here it's a combination. He flashes to the alien as if it's an Omnimatrix device, but it wears off and brings him back to the human form. But the warp effect around Albedo affects the background even after the transformation. Like, see him looking at his hands and reacting to it. This shouldn't still be happening.
Why are you doing that? The Ultimatrix must have interfered with the alteration field. I'll always change back to this!
That's really gotta suck. And you know what? It's not even Ben's fault this time, it's Hugh's.
It's all my fault.
There you go.
Here on Earth, I had friends, especially you. Told Ben Tennyson so he would stop you, so you wouldn't leave.
I don't blame you. I blame you!
That's petty, though. Perhaps Albedo just feels too close to Hugh to really blame him, though. Like, Albedo's trying to deflect his feelings, even though logically, yeah, the trio were going to leave Albedo to his own devices and just say, shut down the show, and we won't bother you, and then leave. It was Hugh who brought them back and straight up lied about what Albedo was doing.
You did this to me!
No, he didn't. Also, Ben's 10 is inverted. And now we see Albedo is able to transform into aliens again. Now, the standard rule going forward is that Albedo was only able to transform into aliens that Ben had access to up until this episode, yet later on he becomes Gravitax. So that either means A, that theory isn't correct, or B, that right now Ben does in fact have access to Gravitac and just doesn't know it yet. Which one do you think it is? Do you agree that Ben somehow has Gravitac right now, and Albedo only turning into UA Ben's aliens is a true theory? Or there is no logic to which aliens Albedo can and can't transform into? Let me know what you think in the comments below. That scream effect looks a little different than what we normally see, and a pretty unique shape than some of the other screams we've seen in the series.
Ultimate.
A lot of ultimates in this episode.
The sound wave grenade you used at the theater. Want to see my version?
So sometimes Ben names his attacks, especially with his Sonararsian forms. He has Wall of Sound, Echo Chamber, and Sonic Doom. So do you think Ben will actually call this move Soundwave Grenade? I also think it's this move that Albedo replicates on him later on, and not the Sonic Doom.
You want him? He's all yours.
I'll take care of him. He's my friend.
I would love for these characters to come back. I'm really surprised that they're not still palling around with Albedo in Omniverse. These characters seem ripe for Omniverse's picking. In fact, Derek J. White even said this is one of his favorite episodes. The whole Albedo arc, instead of teaming up with Kyber, it should have been them returning.
There's no accounting for some people's taste in friends.
Quite a few episodes that end with them standing next to a burnt down building too. Man, they just have no place to park this thing, huh?
I guess if you want to be a world-famous hero, you gotta give up some stuff, like privacy.
It's a very noble lesson.
On behalf of the owners of the Nemesis Resort Hotel,
Where did they come from? They don't have a car around here. They walk all the way here?
we're suing you for the damage you caused to our theater.
Wow, he's actually being held accountable for his property damage, and not just in a mocking, passive statement by Will Horang either. Kinda sucks though.
Is your dad home?
And those other two guys are missing. Where did they go? After having some great developments with the Dagon arc, it's always jarring when Ben 10 throws a few filler episodes in the mix. But this is one I didn't mind. In fact, I rather enjoyed it. I think for the plot, this one deserves a 4. It's really hard as a longtime fan not to compare this episode to Super Alien Hero Buddy Adventures, but beyond the idea of somebody using Ben's image, they're two very different episodes. And I kinda like the idea of this one more. For one, the person ripping Ben off has a direct correlation with him, Albedo, and in his own words, he's doing it because he's trying to make the best of a bad situation. And his entire goal is to just get himself back to where he needs to be, as he's sick of being a clone of Ben Tennyson. Even teaming up with Vilgax, his goal has always been to try to revert back to his normal form. Yeah, in his initial debut episode, he did want the Omnitrix, but that was just because he felt he was more worthy of it than Ben. I don't even think we really explored what Albedo would have done with the Omnitrix if he was given it outright. I honestly never thought of Albedo as straight up evil, and you know, many people, including Azimuth himself, has also thought Ben wasn't worthy of the Omnitrix at one point or another. So what would Albedo have done if he was given the Omnitrix outright? But that's a different topic. The point is, this episode I think is the most important for Albedo's character. As one of the most memorable and favored recurring villains, this one really breaks him down to who he is at the core. An angry genius who wants nothing to do with the world he's now trapped in, constantly unraveling little by little the more he runs into Ben Tennyson, to the point where he can't even recognize himself anymore, no pun intended. And once he finally does get what he wants, he is willing to give it all up. He doesn't want to rip off Ben anymore, he doesn't want revenge, he just wants to leave and live his own life. But despite this dive into Albedo's character, this is also just a very fun episode. We get to see the show mock itself, but in a non-meta humor fashion, where they're just playing around with what would the Ben 10 world itself do if they tried to make a show out of him. Characterization cranks up to a 5. I love what they did with Albedo, and the trio were also written very well in this episode, and even though Fridge and Swamps kinda got sidelined in favor of Hugh, I do think collectively they'd work as great supporting characters. They have a better advantage than most because they are based off of Ben's aliens, thus making them more important. I like that Albedo has his own gang of accomplices, and Hugh especially, despite this one episode, does go on to be a very memorable character in the fandom. I just wish he looked a little different. Visuals, I'm gonna give it a 4. I'm not gonna lie, the animation isn't on top of itself as it could have been, but this episode's visual advantages is more of in the concepts, which are enough to gain it a lot of points. Watching the Ben 10 live show itself is very amusing. Seeing other members of Ben's species. That weird scene where Ultimate Spider Monkey reverted to Ben. Seeing Albedo's true form for the first time, and then his new ability to mentally change his DNA. And some of the fights were pretty cool. It's always good to see some alien on alien action, but with all of the best looking episodes of this show, you can tell this one didn't get as much attention as some of the others did. Importance was quite a struggle, because the episode itself doesn't have that much to say for it, but Albedo is an important character, and every little bit of information does lead up to his whole arc focus in Omniverse. And some of you might be surprised how high or low I'm rating this, but I'm going to give it a 4. Hey folks, Kuro here. Originally in this section I kept debating on whether or not to give this a 3 or 4 in importance, but I did something I normally don't do and went ahead and checked out some scenes in Omniverse to make sure that these ratings line up. And honestly, when it comes to Albedo, this episode really is necessary to understand his powers going forward and his entire motivation for stabilizing his transformations, which begins his storyline in that series. And with some more thought, those combined with a few other reasons lead me to believe that this really does deserve a 5 in importance. I also gave this a 5 in entertainment too, just because, like Greetings from Tekadon, it's a very fun ride, and also plays a lot with Ben 10's established lore, which is one of the biggest draws of the series. But while I'm here, I also think I'm gonna knock the visuals back down to a 3. The reasons why I gave it a 4, on second thought, I don't think are strong enough to warrant that 4. I still agree with everything that I said, but those reasonings lead me more along the lines of giving it a 3. But that's still gonna leave this episode off at a 22 out of 25, which is a fantastic score. I did the first wave of recording in a rush, so I didn't get to think about the ratings as much as I usually do, but I'm glad I took some extra time to reflect on these thoughts anyways, and I'll try to avoid having to do this in the future. Now let's move on to the final thoughts. I gotta say, it's really hard to resist the urge to pick apart Albedo's play endlessly. Like, how is he aware of classic Vilgax's form? And if they're able to portray this, why does he look like this in the flashback in Secret of Chromastone? Or if he was able to send out a signal to hold auditions for the play, why couldn't he hitch a ride or even straight up steal one of the auditioners' spaceships and fly off? Theaterheads also know there's endless ways to pick apart the production of the stage show, and I could be here forever. But I do think it's a coincidence that all the actors that Albedo ended up hiring do have green eyes, which fits with Ben's portrayal. Last week I asked you how you felt about the esoterica, and sharing similar opinions to me, it seems like more than half the people only liked their powers and outfits. This isn't to say I don't like their concept and their lore, but it's not strong enough of a reason for me to love these characters. I think they're really cool, but Ben 10 has definitely done better, but they're at least entertaining on screen. For this week's poll, I'd like to ask you which episode where Ben's identity was plagiarized was your favorite. Super Alien Hero Buddy Adventures, Double or Nothing, or the upcoming Collect This. Let me know what you think in the community tab when this video goes live. I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your weekend. And as always, keep it fizzy.